This is Immigrant Podcast with Robinson.
Welcome to the Immigrant Podcast with Robinson. And today I'm honored to present to you Mert Öztürk. Mert comes from Turkey. Welcome to the show, Mert.
Hi, Robinson. The honor is all mine. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Mert, would you please reach out to the Turkish community in Canada and in the world and say a few phrases in your mother tongue, please?
Kanada'dan herkese merhaba. It's a little cliche, but it's just simple hello from Canada to you.
Awesome. Perfect. Mert, who are you? The audience and I would like to know that. Could you expand on it a little bit?
Yes. Well, in this context, I'm an immigrant. Let's start with that. I don't usually define who are you question with the answer of what I do for work. But in terms of that, I came to Canada as an international student. So in that context, I'm an international student. And now I'm a young professional who does consulting for Canadian immigration and recruitment services.
Amazing. And I believe you've been here for almost 16 years, right?
16, yeah. First half of that in East Coast in lovely Halifax, and now last 7-8 years in Toronto.
Very good. And you touched on a very important topic, and one of the goals of the Immigrant podcast and the Immigrant project. You are an immigration consultant.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of the people that are going to be listening to this show are going to be interested in finding out and knowing what are the options out there that are available for them to move to Canada. And I know there's many. Would you please touch on I'm not going to say easiest ones, but some of the options that are available there that people can use. And when people think about this, they want to do it quick, right? But nothing is magical. It takes time, takes money, it takes effort.
Mm-hmm.
So what are those options?
I'll tell you briefly, and most of my answers in this subject is coming from me being immigrant and experiencing in the first hand rather than me being a professional. So there is not one answer, one simple magic pill for immigration and one simple route. But I'll tell you, it's easy for people. The laws are the same, the regulations and requirements are the same. But I find that it's easy for people who are determined and who are optimistic and who know their purpose of coming to Canada. So if you ask those people, was it easy to come to Canada? They will say yes. But for people who, it's a stressful procedure. There is no way around this. But for people who try to fight this and then make this happen tomorrow, they will tell you that's a big hassle and it was a terrible experience. Was it like too round of an answer for your question?
I totally agree with you. I believe that it really depends on the person. Some people are going to say that it was tedious, that it was very difficult, time-consuming, and the others are going to be like, oh, it was fun. I enjoyed the process. Even if it took time, I learned a lot, and so on and so forth.
True. I find it very interesting, and I don't think it's specific to Canada. It's I think it's related to any kind of big decision, like such as immigration to any country. For people who are with a little bit more clear mindsets and know their reasons. And so basically, most of the time, people who were already happy and seem satisfied to be in their home country, they will be the ones who will fit in, I guess, our successful immigrant candidate profile. But also there are some facts such as the Canadian immigration system, the express entry point system, kind of favors English-speaking countries. I would say it's like more Western countries. there's a program called Working Holidays. I think there are 33 or 35 countries. So if you're a young person from one of those countries, you can come through work permits and then work your way up to permanent residence. So there are some certain facts about it. So English test brings you high scores, or if you are if you are more likely to come and adapt to culture, speak the language, start or grow your family in Canada, the system favors these kind of profiles. That's a fact.
Does the system favor families over single?
Yeah. If you're a young family, if you're a young person around like late 20s, early 30s, you're married, like in the pool, you get some extra points for your spouse, basically.
And for the kids as well, correct?
No, not for the kids.
Very good.
I mean,
okay.
It's talking specifically about the express entry. No.
And throughout Canada, we have 10 different provinces, correct? Which ones have the easiest processes?
I'm more familiar with Atlantic provinces because I was there and I was in the system. And also they launched this Atlantic pilot project. Basically, the whole idea was to make it easier for international students to stay in the province, because what happens is pretty much all parts of Canada needs a population, right?
Right.
And Atlantic provinces, there was this issue of a lot of international students come, they graduate and they leave. So they lose that human resources, that talents, that knowledge to most of the time to Toronto or Alberta or British Columbia. So they launched this program to make it easier to get a job offer, to get a permanent status. And I think it's been working. There's a drastic increase in the numbers, especially in big cities of Atlantic Canada like Halifax, Moncton, Fredericton.
So the number of people going to that area is increasing.
Yes. The people who have become an immigrant, who have that permanent residence status, have been increasing. So what provinces would be easier to immigrate? I think that's a little bit depends, because there's a good variance. Actually, let me take one step back. So immigration is one of the subjects. By definition, it falls under the jurisdiction of federal and provincial governments, which means like such as national defense is only related to federal government, right? But immigration is managed by federal government policies and provincial government policies. So that means the provinces are able to make lists of professions that they will need, and then they can favor those kind of people. For example, if you're an IT professional, that would be fairly easier to come to Ontario because of the jobs and because of the nature of the economy here. If you are more in the trades or oil and gas, actual trades is applicable for all of Canada, but if you are more like in oil and the gas or like farming, Alberta might be a better option for you. Or I'm not too sure the list of provinces in Atlantic Canada now, or maybe fisheries and oceans, marine biology. Maybe it can favor you in that sense. Or if you are thinking to come as international students, because the opportunities and staying in Canada and becoming a permanent status is easier in Atlantic Canada, that might be the route to go. So I think the answer would change according to the candidate's background.
I totally agree. When I applied, really at the time, the only reason why I applied through Quebec was because I spoke French, and I thought it was going to be faster to come into Canada through Quebec. But it still took me 3.5 years because of the process itself and because of a couple of things that happened personally
Mm-hmm.
in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But for other people, it took 2 years. For other, it took 6 years. So it really depends a
Mm-hmm.
lot, really, on what's going on in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in my case, I had to send documents to Mexico. So it really took a long time for me to prepare the documents, send them to Mexico, receive the answer from Mexico. And sometimes they're, in a way, a little bit irresponsive.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have to be patient throughout the process. You
Yeah,
know,
it's
I
actually very interesting that you mentioned that point because immigrating to another country is such an interesting story. Such an equation has a lot of variables to it. Yeah, there's requirements and the bureaucracy from the government side, but as you said, there's also a lot of personal stories involved.
yes. So how about for those who want to come as students? I know a lot of people, because I'm in Quebec, who
Mm-hmm.
come to Quebec as students. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they go through 8 months programs. They go
Mm-hmm.
through even 18 months programs. And after that, then they get their
Mm-hmm.
CAQ in Quebec, kind of
Mm-hmm.
a student document. And then from there,
Mm-hmm.
once they're done, they have to get their CSQ, or the Certificat de Sélection du Québec.
Mm-hmm.
And after, then they submit their paperwork for the residency. How does it
Mm-hmm.
work in the Atlantic area or even in the English side?
In most of the cases, it's very similar. So what the government wants to have is they want people to come study here, but they want them to be able to find a job and settle. So that's why they have this prerequisite of when you come as a student, it's not enough to graduate. You also have to find a job, settle, work at the same job for a year. Then it shows me, okay, you're a good candidate for permanent residence. So it's very similar status. So maybe not a lot of people can relate to this when I say it, but I really don't recommend um, to come to Canada to study just for the sake of immigrating to country, because education is such a valuable and such an expensive time and money-wise thing that I talk to some people sometimes. Okay, so what do you want to do? I want to come to Canada. Okay, and I want to go to school. Okay, so what do you want to take? And they're like, what should I take? Um, it's really a big investment for yourself. So the immigration is most of the time that might be the purpose, but it should be secondary. So when people are making decision to come to Canada to study, I think it should really align with their purposes, what they want to do with their life, because maybe not every country give the sense and give this opportunity, but you can become anything you want in Canada and you can be successful. It doesn't matter. And I don't measure this by the financial gains, but it's the one of the biggest things that we chase in life, right? To be able to work and do what we love to. Like, you can really do that in Canada. So that should be taken into account for prospect international students.
That Mert, that's very interesting, because I think a lot of people are actually doing that now. They're coming here as students, and
Mm-hmm.
we all know that the real goal is to become permanent residents after
Mm-hmm.
they finish their
Mm-hmm.
studies. So
Yes,
you say
that's
this, and I'm just like, my mouth just dropped, because you're saying that you do not really recommend it if it's only for the purpose to immigrate to the country.
I mean, what's the purpose of to coming to another country with all those hopes? But if it ends up exactly the opposite for what you envision for your life, um, you know what I'm trying to say? I mean, it's perfectly fine to have that goal, and it's great because it takes preparation. So it's great that you know you want to immigrate. So you bring your English to a good level. You prepare to get a job in your field. You try not to get involved in crime, so you won't be inadmissible. So it's great to plan ahead for these things. But I think having a happy and successful life in any country you choose weigh a little bit more than just to get a legal status. And it's my opinion, of course.
Right, for sure. And I agree with you. As a student, you really have to spend a lot of money, and you still have to spend at least 3 years before you can actually submit your paperwork for the permanent residency.
Exactly. So since you're already doing that, why not make it in a way that it will serve you in a great way for the rest of your life?
Right, correct. It's a very interesting point. I had never thought about it that way, but yeah, thanks for sharing that one with us.
Well, again, this is not my professional experience. This is my personal experience.
But it's good because you've already been through it. You had to go through that process, and now you're on the other side. So you really understand what it really means to start from that zero and then move on through the ladder and go through the difficulties and the situations of being an immigrant, coming as a student, spending the money, waiting, and submitting all the paperwork and follow the process.
Yeah. And it's ironic enough because I'm sharing with the hope that maybe it will be slightly helpful to someone out there. But to be honest, it's something that you have to experience on your own. I mean, I went through this process, right? But if I heard 16 years ago somebody was saying all the words I'm saying, I wouldn't probably listen. Or even if I listen, I wouldn't be able to relate. So it will not serve more like a recommendation to people, but just like a personal anecdote, a personal story. Maybe people come and go through the routes, and 10 years back they can say, oh, now I know what he means. I experienced something similar to myself.
Right. And I think it's going to help. That's for sure. Because again, some people might decide differently, but for sure, because you have the experience, you're doing that now as a job, as a daily activity. For sure, some people are going to follow your lead, your advice. But overall, what's your advice? What do you recommend to those people that are out there still considering, or actually maybe they already started the first step in the process?
Okay.
What should they do? What do you recommend?
We can break it down to some simple questions. Why Canada? Why do I want to choose Canada over my other options? What do I want to do in Canada? And what would I want my life to look like maybe 5 years from now? If these pictures and if these answers are becoming more clear, I think that person will have more likelihood to succeed and be happy when they follow this journey.
That's correct. And once they have the answers to those three questions, then what would be kind of the research process? Go to cic.gc.ca, start reading, joining groups. What else?
I have one good advice for that. Don't get drowned in the flood of information of World Wide Web. So you're an engineer, right? From, let's say, Germany, and you're trying to find out what is to be like a Germany in Canada. So you start going in the forums, you do your research. So like the requirements, the paperwork, same for everyone. But you read, and you see one person writes in a forum that, oh, being an engineer in Canada is awesome. That's that. And then you go to another page and you see a person wrote, this is terrible. I wish I never came. So it's very subjective, right? And none of this information is wrong, but it's just subjective. So it's very difficult to choose what is relevant and accurate for you. So my recommendation would be, let's say you're a graphic designer and then you want to pursue this route and you want to come to Canada and you are wondering about what's your life going to be, what's your work and the culture going to be, what's your social life, I don't know, dating life going to be. So these are important things to wonder, right? I would highly recommend just connect to a person on LinkedIn who is potentially your future you. So let's say you are a graphic designer, you want to get a job in a big global gaming company. So I would recommend to reach out to a person who has that job already in Toronto office. Let's say you want to come to Toronto, and then ask him some questions. What is your life like? What do you do on a daily basis? What are the expectations from your work? What's the family life like? What's your work-life balance? I think that would be very accurate and a very one-on-one conversation, and it's also serve as a networking. It's something I find more accurate and less depressing, rather than going and being drawn into endless and countless articles and blogs about the subject.
That is true. That is a great approach. And that's something that I've done for other things, professionally speaking, in my life. I go to LinkedIn. I reach out to people.
Mm-hmm.
I have very funny, interesting stories about that we'll have to share at another time. But I
Yeah, I'd
think it's
love
a
to.
great approach because you have to really understand directly from someone, again, who has gone through this and who is
Mm-hmm.
actually doing it. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
especially when you reach out to immigrants, even local Canadians, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you reach out the right way, they're going to answer. They're going to reply back. They're going to be happy to help you out and give you some tips. Of
Yeah,
course,
I
don't
mean,
ask him how much his or her salary is, but in general, the questions that you brought to surface, those are questions that people are going to be willing to help you with.
yeah, of course, people will be very helpful. And I'm speaking for Toronto, and it's very valid for Montreal as well. Being an immigrant and the subject of immigration is nothing strange to the native-born Canadians. I mean, interesting enough, Toronto is, I think, the second city in the world who has the most population of people who were born outside of the country. I think only 40% of the people, I might be a little off on this ratio, but about that, like 40, 50% of the people who live in Toronto were actually born in Toronto. So even if they are not immigrants themselves, either very likely they're the first generation immigrants, or their best friends, their partners, their colleagues are mostly immigrants. So nobody's a stranger to this subject, and there is no, this is just a part of the everyday life here.
That's correct. That's true. So, Mert, where can people find you, reach out to you?
I can share my LinkedIn happily. Maybe I don't know what would be the best way to do that. I just message you, or
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the description of the
okay, yeah.
podcast. So people are just
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to click on it and go directly to your LinkedIn. Is
Yeah.
that the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, I think so. Keeping any specific subject related accounts in one social media, I find it usually more helpful. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so that would be the best way.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mert, for your time. It's been
My pleasure.
enriching. I hope that those out there listening to the podcast are able to share with all the others that are interested in coming to Canada. I'm also hoping that they reach out to you if they have more questions. You are the expert here. And I would like you to close this podcast now with a longer phrase or invitation to the Turkish community out there and in your own language.
I was trying to quickly translate Steve Jobs' quote, "Stay foolish, stay hungry," so I could sound cool, but it translates terribly. So let me think. You always wanted to like drop the mic sentence, but I'll just
Right.
say herkese iyi günler ve iyi hafta sonları. Umarım burada tekrar görüşmek üzere. I'm not going to tell you what it means. You can look it up if you want.
Perfect. Once again, Mert, it was great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Looking forward to have you again in the near future.
Likewise. Thank you very much, and enjoy your day and enjoy your weekends.
Thank you very much, Mert.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
This was Immigrant Podcast with Robinson.